Sorry about that. I am Justin Branson, and I will be your host. I would like to introduce the fighters now, if we could go in this order.
Hi, my name is Peyton Tavernier.
I'm Evan Lacey, a CS major, and I'm a huge nerd.
Hi, I'm Max Van Dongen. I'm a TCOM major, poli-sci screenwriting minor. Shout out to Daisy Ridley. I love you.
Well, are we talking about ourselves?
No, we're not.
Wait,
okay.
Not right.
I'm just Peyton.
Announce
I
our
don't have
celebrity-
any.
They go hand in hand, so it's
Yeah.
like...
Our celebrity crushes? Come on, Shailene Woodley.
Wait,
And
where
back
are
to
we?
the show. These people are friends of the show, so they should know how it works, but if you're unfamiliar, I'll lay it back out. You'll have 1 minute to introduce your topic, each of you. We will then follow with a 5-minute forum where you can all argue, and I'll stay over here out of the crossfire, which will then be followed by 30 seconds of introduction, wrapping up your argument, and then I get to do the part where I tell them who's wrong and who's right.
The best part.
Sounds good.
Okay. If we'd like to do introductions, we can start on that side of the table. Can we get 1 minute on the clock?
Introductions for ourselves.
Introductions for your arguments.
Which
It's
argument?
not very clear here.
Which are we doing first?
Where are we?
We're
Come
doing the best 90s movie.
Here we go.
Just whenever. All right. What swept the major awards of the 1995 Oscars? Forrest Gump. Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, etc. Forrest Gump is easily the best 90s film because on top of having the winning achievements, it is a memorable, heartfelt, emotional journey of an extremely lovable, if not the most lovable character of all time, who is put constantly in an environment where you think he would be the most disadvantaged, but what makes him special is his different way of thinking. It's a beautiful story to watch and is not only the best of the 90s, but one of the best of any decade.
Beautifully done, and with time to spare, we can now move on to our next contestant.
So, my best memories of early 90s movies, which I was raised on, always came back to all the action movies that came out that era because my dad was a huge action fan. So, one of the quintessential ones that I always remember loving seeing is Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan is hands down one of the best war films that I have ever seen. And it is backed up because it's a 93% certified Rotten Tomatoes. It has multiple Oscar wins. It's 5 Oscar wins. And it was so masterfully done cinematographically that it even caused several of the veterans that were in the audience to have to go outside of the theater because they were having some flashbacks from their wars. So, yeah.
All right. And lastly?
When we're talking about the best movie of the 90s, we're looking for something that everyone has had to see. Not just us movie buffs, but basically anyone ever has to have a few movies they've seen to have in any discussion. Pulp Fiction is a movie everyone has seen at some point in their life. You can't replicate something like Pulp Fiction with complex storytelling. We have all these different timelines, everything that's moving by this master filmmaker. But it also represents what the 90s culture was. We're trying some different things. We're going a little bit experimental with our films, and we're trying something new with how we tell stories, and Pulp Fiction fits that the best.
All right. Now that you've all introduced, it is time for the fight. 5 minutes on the clock. Begin.
Okay,
So to begin with, how does Pulp Fiction symbolize better storytelling just because it has multiple viewpoints?
because it's
It's-
different from everything else we have.
No,
we have this
it is not.
current
we
three-act
have Reservoir
structure
Dogs as well
and
from the
everything.
same director from Quentin Tarantino, and that was
That's
also
great
with
too.
multiple viewpoints. But that doesn't make it
Okay,
better
then let's
because
go
it
to the
has-
cast. We have Samuel L. Jackson. Everyone in this cast is still relevant today, just as they were in the
I'm not talking
90s.
about relevance of cast.
None of them won an Academy Award. Tom Hanks did. Same year.
All right, you stay
Pulp
over
Fiction
there.
lost to Forrest Gump, Best Picture, and actors and director
Forrest
and everything.
Gump, there's a bunch of feel-good movies out there. We have 100 feel-good
We're
movies.
not talking
just
about
this is
feel
top
good
shelf.
movies. Like we're talking
There's a
about
bunch of
best
alcohol
movies,
out
not
there,
just,
but I'm
like,
not gonna
We're
drink
talking about the
it's
best
not
movie
just-
in the 90s. We're
No,
everywhere around. Yes,
Yeah.
this movie
We're talking
has
like
all
the best
of it.
picture, the best story, the best plot-driven thing, and that's Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan, yes, it's a great war movie.
No, it's
but
not
it
just a war
stays
movie.
on
It's
one
a
level the
telling.
whole time.
It's a telling of
we're
a
trying,
wonderful,
we're going after this
emotional,
guy. Half of
heart-wrenching
it's like The
story.
Walking Dead. We're just walking in the grass.
Saving
Yes.
Private Ryan has hard replay value. It's not the kind of movie you go on Friday night, honey, gather the kids. Let's watch Saving Private
No,
Ryan.
we don't want to
You can
cry.
And
watch
you want
Forrest
to
Gump
show
all
the
the time.
kids Forrest Gump?
Both of those you're
Absolutely.
gonna
I watched
cry.
Forrest
No,
Gump when I was a kid.
I don't
Okay,
want to
how are
cry
you
all the
defining
time when I'm
kids
watching
here?
movies. I want to enjoy myself.
Young kids.
Yeah, no. What age are you allowing this?
Sweetie, did you see that guy's head blown off? Yeah.
Okay, none of
Yeah,
these
I'm not-
movies
I'm
were
not
made
talking
for
about-
kids.
yeah,
I mean,
no.
we have violence
It's-
in
I
all of
actually-
these.
that, but
especially
Forrest
not
Gump
the
The
wasn't
whole
necessarily made for
Vietnam Forrest Gump is just on our level here.
But
I mean,
We watched
none
that
of
in
these
history
movies-
class in high
Yeah.
school.
I'm saying not for kids. What are you
No,
gonna have, bring the
Forrest Gump
family
is one
over?
of those
Hey
things that
kids, look,
your
where's
parents
his leg
needed
now?
to show you. But that doesn't make it a good film. I'm talking hardcore, gut-wrenching, emotion-driven film that was Saving Private Ryan.
Okay, let's
But
go
there's
outside of
weaknesses.
the film.
Okay.
Is there
Find
a
me-
Saving Private Ryan or Pulp Fiction restaurant? No?
Yes.
There's a Pulp Fiction restaurant?
Bubba
The
Gum
restaurant
shrimp?
they use in Pulp Fiction.
Are you
yes.
talking about Bubba
I'm
Gum
talking
shrimp?
about
Because
Bubba Gum.
that was made
Bubba
before
Gum,
Saving
what?
or before Forrest Gump.
We have
That
a
was-
restaurant
that
that,
was existent
represents
before.
every time
That was
period.
existent before.
We don't even
But
need
we
to talk
used
about
it-
the
we-
90s.
we-
You can go any
we
time period
dominated
in
it and we
entertainment.
add-
We have a restaurant for it. And that's not even the whole movie.
Yeah.
That's 1/3 of it.
Because the movie is so loved by audiences everywhere that people will go to that. That's the reason I went to the restaurant. Maybe it was before. I would not have been interested to go.
Have you stood in line
I've been
for
there
there?
multiple
Every time
times.
I've even walked by one, the line's like a mile down
As
the
much
road.
as I love to argue the food, I'm talking about because
We're
this
talking
movie
about
is so
food now?
loved by audiences.
I wanna talk about
the movie
$5
itself does
milkshakes.
not preclude the restaurant from being good.
You had
That
a
doesn't-
$5 milkshake?
Forrest Gump is so memorable that
Why do you
it's so.
care about $5 milkshakes? We're debating
Well, we're talking
movies
about
here.
food. I don't know what we're talking
it's
about
so-
anymore.
No.
I thought we were talking about good storytelling, and now here we are.
Let's get back to the movies here.
Okay,
and
back
how
to the movies.
Saving Private Ryan is inherently better than Forrest
It's
Gump.
not even Spielberg's
what?
best movie in
For
the
what
90s.
reasons?
Jurassic
All right,
Park was
let's
his best.
Let's compare ratings and awards.
Okay.
All right. How much did Forrest Gump get?
What?
Like Rotten Tomatoes.
I believe over
Do we
90%.
have a fact checker here?
Yeah, we
I
do.
don't believe.
Yeah. Do we have a? I know for certain
Did it win Best Picture?
it won.
Did it win Best Picture?
Here we go.
Oh, we do.
We'll find out after.
We'll find out after.
Nice.
But do you know?
I do not know.
I know that Forrest Gump won Best Picture, beating Pulp Fiction.
Sure.
Just to
I
get
also
that
know.
out.
Yeah, doesn't make it the
I-
best 90s
I'm-
movie.
I
I do not believe Saving Private Ryan won Best Picture.
Okay,
And how
well,
can you be, how,
it won
no,
5
not
Oscars.
Let You Be My
Not
Neighbor
bad. It got
wasn't
5
nominated for
Oscar
anything
nominations.
this
How
year,
can
but
you
it
be
all
the
year,
best movie
everyone's
of the
losing
90s
their
if you do
crap
not
about
have
it.
an award to back
as
it
well,
up?
and a nominee for the Screen
Mine's
Actors
the only
Guild.
one that won Best Picture.
I'm
How
sorry,
can
I
you
didn't know
not
this
have
was
the-
an awards thing. Oscars coming up, so
No,
now
no,
we're
no,
just talking about
awards.
Awards
Awards
validation
are
to the movie,
necessary
you know
to
what I
show
mean?
who, like, what movie is good. Because if you
Awards
see,
don't ask the audience what they want. It's just a
Well,
bunch
no,
of
no,
people
that's
getting
why we
together
also have-
saying,
that's
what
why
do
we also have
like?
ratings. So if you check on like Rotten Tomatoes, you see the actual critic score and then you see the audience score.
Okay.
For instance, Saving Private Ryan, 93% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes,
All
and
outside
a 95%.
the movie. We are
no,
talking
no.
about the best 90s movie, something that represents what the 90s was.
If you look at the
Yeah.
Saving Private
Saving
Ryan
Private
wasn't
Ryan.
even
No.
World
Saving
War
Private
II.
Ryan
Let's get them that
shows-
category
it
way
showed
over
what
there.
the emotional-driven movie cinematic experience was of the 90s. The 90s itself
The
had
90s
a lot of emotion and a lot of story-driven
Then
things.
tell me
Forrest
what's the
Gump.
difference. Why is Pulp Fiction
Saving-
lower than that?
Saving
This is
Private Ryan
going
had a
into
more
different
emotion-driven story than
stories.
Saving-
I would not
Whereas
say
all
so in
these
the
complex
slightest.
characters, you don't like one of the stories, we have two other ones you can deal with.
Forrest Gump is
And
built
yet
around
they're
its
all tied
central.
together, so it's not two different. It's not
Awesome.
two different stories. It's one story.
What's wrong with that?
Your entire point right there was the fact that you had
They're all-
multiple
Disjointed.
stories.
And that is time. The teeth are out, guys. I thought that these people were friends.
we're
Okay.
not.
What made
Now.
you think that?
Just the atmosphere. All right. Had to take a second to slow it down. Now, you all have 30 seconds to conclude your arguments and your last chance to change my mind. Start over here, work our way back.
Okay, Pulp Fiction is the best movie of the 90s because we are representing a decade of movies. What is going to represent this decade of filmmaking? We're doing a little bit more experimental stuff. We're going into different storytelling. Saving Private Ryan is in its own category. World War II, war, we're staying over there. Great, yeah, it won. Again, with Forrest Gump, we have a bunch of feel-good movies. That's great. Keep it in that category, but we're talking about the 90s as a decade and everything it represents.
Saving Private Ryan was one of the quintessential, not just war movies, but story-driven and emotion-wrenching movies of the 90s. It told the tale of how this group of soldiers was contracted by the military to go find this one singular soldier out of his brothers who all died, and they wanted to save this one soldier. They wanted to save Matt Damon, so that way his mama wouldn't be, widowless and also sonless.
Good. Okay. Forrest Gump. I mean, how can you claim to be the best movie of the '90s and not have won the Best Picture? You don't have the achievements to back you up there. Forrest Gump does. For Saving Private Ryan, the emotion is already there because it's based on a true story. It's more impressive to create a fictional character that you care about in Forrest Gump. The grave scene alone, best performance, one of the best performances by an actor when he talks to Jenny at the grave. And Pulp Fiction is disjointed. And yeah, there's a lot of feel-good movies out there, but I'd rather reach for the top shelf with Forrest Gump.
Completely unrelated to the argument, but don't insult Tarantino in front of film buffs. It's just not something you do.
Hey,
Quick
I
question,
don't
though.
pick
Okay.
ballroom, I just dance,
Favorite Tarantino movie, though, Justin?
Here we go.
Unrelated, maybe for a different video.
Okay.
Okay,
So calm.
I'll now take my next 7.8 seconds to deliberate
Can we check the facts?
Oh, yeah.
after.
Yeah, let's hear these
Yes,
facts.
please.
Okay, so everything that I could, from what I could tell, was true, except for the following things that I just wanted to point out real quick. Max, you are right that Forrest Gump won an Oscar for Best Writing, but it was for a screenplay that was based on material previously produced or published
I said adapted.
or adapted. But Saving Private Ryan Pulp Fiction also won an Oscar for Best Writing for a screenplay written directly for the screen. So I thought that was important to point out.
Thank you.
As for the restaurant argument, the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company wasn't opened until 2 years after the movie came out, so it didn't exist before the movie. I couldn't find any evidence that the restaurants from Pulp Fiction were still like a thing or
They're
were
not anymore.
a thing outside of the.
Yeah, they were just
They're not.
50s diner.
Okay.
Out of that business, baby.
And
We're debating movies, not restaurants.
I mean, we can.
let's
This
see.
is film fights,
And
not
Saving
restaurant
Private Ryan was nominated for Best Picture but didn't win.
Did Forrest Gump win Best Picture, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Big time, baby.
Okay. I'm thinking of numbers between 1 and 3.
Mm.
There's 3 of them.
You must count to 3. No more, no less.
All right. Between all of the conversations about great restaurants that have to do with movies, I got some details in here about your arguments. With heavy heart, I have to say, Evan, that's going to be 3rd place, buddy. See, I appreciate that you brought up the heart of the movie. It is a compelling movie. No one can deny that. But I didn't see the significance to what it did for film in the 90s. That's just how it's going to be. And, excuse me, Peyton, I hate to do this,
Fine.
but Pulp Fiction, that's going to be 2nd place, son. And you had a good point about the points of view and the cast. I appreciate that that's something that exemplifies the movie for you, but it just didn't. It doesn't carry the spirit of the 90s. I don't think it's Tarantino. It carries the spirit of Tarantino, and it has lots of nostalgia, but not for the right decade. So, for that, Max, I think you might have figured this out by now, but you won, and.
No, give me your Jack
No,
Hell's Kitchen.
I was going to explain why I won, but
Oh, okay, here we go.
Is he number one?
The general lovability that you brought in, though it doesn't exactly tie into the 90s, does create the feeling that everyone, when you think of the 90s, when you come back to the 90s, what movie are you thinking of? What anyone has seen Forrest Gump at least once, I would hope. Can we get that written into law? Is that a law, Vaughn?
Not that I know of.
Not that we know
Can
of.
we make it a law?
We're
Is that a
working on
thing?
it. We have friends.
High places?
Low
No,
places.
We have friends in low places too.
Oh, okay.
But the compelling argument about Bubba Gump Shrimp Co. was what really no. We talked about food far too much, but
Yeah, we got sidetracked.
Yeah, a little
Forrest Gump, you did it. Well, that has been it for us today on Cardinal Film Fights. Make sure to interact with us socially on the social medias at Card Film Fights. Like the video, comment if you'd like, suggest new topics, or tell who you think should have won, because I'm new to this whole thing. It's been nice. See ya.